Hello students. Yesterday we have seen call by value, call by reference, and now we'll move on to the next topic in function, that is recursion. So what do you mean by a recursion is when a function calls itself. A function can call itself and is known as recursive function, and this technique you are going to call it as a recursion. So when I have for example, in the previous examples we have seen a function to swap two numbers, right? So if a swap calls swap itself, then you call that to be a recursion, right? So for example, I told you that. So when a function calls itself, then you call that to that technique, you are going to call it as a recursion, right? Now the recursion should have the property. The recursive function should have a property. What is that property is, see, when a function calls itself, it can go into an infinite loop, right? To avoid infinite running of recursive function, it must satisfy two properties, right? The first one, you are going to call it as a base criteria. There must be at least one base criteria or condition, such that when this condition is met, the function stops itself recursively, right? So I should have some condition telling that function to stop. It will not call itself once again. And what do you mean by progressive approaches? See, I should have a way in such a way that I should able to meet this base condition or criteria. My logic should be in such a way that I should able to progress towards this base condition so that I can stop my function calling itself, right? So in general, to solve a problem using recursion, so what is the thing I need to do is, I need to break my problem into a subproblem, and the subproblem should resemble my original problem, and then you can apply the same approach to solve the subproblem recursively. So my original problem will be there. If I divide my original problem into subproblems, then all my subproblems will resemble my original problem, but the size alone is going to be different from my original problem, right? In that case only you can apply your recursive function, right? So for example, we will see what is a recursive function. So these are all nothing but things you should know. I'll repeat it once again. When a function calls itself, then you call that function to be a recursive function, and the technique you are going to call it as a recursion. Whenever there is a recursion, the recursion function should have two properties. One, you are going to call it as a base criteria. The other one, you are going to call it as progressive approach. Base criteria means I should have some condition or a criteria that should be met so that my recursive function can stop instead of going to an infinite one. And progressive approach means my problem should be in such a way that I should able to reach my base criteria, right? Then only I can able to stop, right? So in general, where you can apply this recursive procedure is, suppose if I have a big problem, I am able to divide the problem into small one, and each problem can be solved in the same way like my original problem, but the size alone is going to be different. Then in that case you call the problem can be solved using your recursion, right? Right. Next we'll move on to the implementation. And what is this implementation is, see, generally if I say stack and what data structure you are going to use it, no need to worry about this data structures and all. Just you think that there will be some location where I am going to store some information, right? So I am going to store the information in stack. Stack is nothing but a memory location available in your main memory, right? So whenever a function is calls another function, then the the function which is calling must store all the details, right? If I want to call some function, I need to store all the details where I am stopping my program. So when the control returns back to me, I should know from where I have to proceed, right? So all these informations will be stored in a record called activation record, or you will call it as a stack frame, right? So this will be stored in a stack for your recursion, right? Now, why you are going to say that recursion? See, I can do the same problem without using the recursion also. So, why I should go for recursion, right? Because it makes your program more readable. Because I am going to have only one statement, right? So, this is going to be more readable and more understandable. And what about the time complexity? The time complexity is also going to be the number of recursive calls you made. So it is going to be O of n. That is also going to be very less when compared to your normal iterations. But when you take your space complexity means how much space it requires, right? The space it requires is going to be more. Why? Because I need, every time I am going to call a function, every time when I call a function, I need an activation record for storing my details. So for that, the space required is going to be more. So the space complexity is going to be more than your normal program where you are going to use iterations, right? Right. So now if I forget the base or incorrect base statement, then the recursion will not stop. It will lead to an infinite recursion, right? Now we'll see one example and then we'll discuss how this recursion takes place or how it works, right? So write a program to find a factorial of a given number using recursion. What do you mean by a factorial? Factorial of a non-negative integer is multiplication of all integers smaller than or equal to n, right? So for example, if I want to find 4 factorial, what is 4 factorial? 4 factorial is nothing but 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, right? So 5 factorial, in the same way I can write it as 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, or else I can write it as 5 into 4 factorial, right? This is also going to be correct because 4 into 3 into 2 into 1 can be written as 4 factorial. Similarly, 6 factorial can be written as 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, that is nothing but 5 factorial. Again this 5 factorial I can calculate as what? 5 into 4 factorial. Again this 4 factorial I can write it as what? 4 into 3 factorial, right? So this can be converted to your recursion, right? So now we'll see how you can make this to be a recursive one, right? So here I am making, what I am doing here, n factorial can be written as n into n minus 1 factorial, right? So n factorial, for example, if you take 6 factorial equal to 6 into 6 minus 1, that is nothing but my 5 factorial. Again this 5 factorial I will give, so that is nothing but 5 into 4 factorial. So I can keep on calling my recursion functions to calculate the factorial of a number. And what is going to be my base condition? Base condition is n factorial equal to 1. If I have n equal to 0 or n equal to 1, we already know 0 factorial is 1. Similarly, the factorial of 1 is also 1, right? Now we'll see the program and then later on I'll tell you how this recursion actually works, right? With the example program we'll see, right? So till now I have told you what is recursion. What is recursion? Recursion is nothing but when a function calls itself, then you call a function to be a recursive function, and the technique you are going to call it as a recursion. And you need to have 2 properties. One, you are going to call it as a base criteria and progressive approach. And recursion is whenever you call a function, In recursion, you are going to store it in a stack that you are going to call it as an activation record or stack frame. So that alone is going to take more space. So time complexity is less, but space complexity is going to be more in case of your recursion, right? And when you can solve the particular problem using recursion, whenever you are able to divide your problem into sub problem, and the sub problem can be solved in the same way as your original problem, but the size of the sub problem is going to be less, right? The only difference between your main problem and sub problem is the size, right? Right, now we'll move on to the example program. With this I'll tell you how this actually the recursion works, right? So now we'll see. For this we have seen factorial, so we have identified what is a rule. Now we'll try to apply the rule here, right, and see how the recursion works. So int fact int, so this we are going to call it as a declaration, right? This is a return type, this is the name of the function, and this is an argument. Now I'm moving on to the main program, int main. So here I have two variables, num and result. Num is nothing but for which number you are going to find the factorial, and the result is whatever the result I have got from the factorial function. To store that, we have got a variable called result. So I am going to print a statement here, printf factorial program using recursion, right? Now printf enter the number. Then I am reading the number for which we need to find the factorial. And then I am calling the function. Here there is no difference. Now when you see here, we have called a function in the same way how we call a normal function. So the function will return a value, that result is being stored, and that result I am printing it here. Right? Now comes your recursive function. Here the name of the function, here the argument is going to be int n, right? So here you need to declare the variables. So if n is equal to 0, I will return 1, right? Right. Else return n into fact of n minus 1, right? So fact of 0 is equal to 1, then we'll, right? So we'll take the example to be 4. So what is fact of 4, right? So fact of 4 you already know. So 4 into, it will calculate fact of 3. Again fact of 3 can be written as 3 into fact of 2. Again this 2 can be written as 2 into fact of 1. Again this 1 can be written as 1 into fact of 0. We know fact of 0 is going to be 1. So when you multiply, you are going to get 24, right? Now we'll move on to the how the records will be stored in the memory, right? So when you see here, right, so space for storing your factorial of 4, because I am going to pass my 4, so I need some space for the function when it is calculating the factorial 4, right? And the 4 in turn is going to call fact 3. So in addition, I should require the space for calculating fact 3. Now 3 is going to call what? Fact of 2. So again I require space for fact 2. Similarly I require for fact 1. Similarly I require for fact 0. Whenever I have 0, then it is going to return you 1. Whenever return is there, the topmost record will be popped out. So popped out means it will be removed, right? So I will have what? Fact 1, 2, 3, 4. So again this will return 1, so this will be removed. And this will return the value 2, so this will be removed. So this will return you the value, this will be removed. And this will return the value, and this will be removed, and the control will be transferred to your main function, right? So that step we have written it here. Just see. Right. So fact of 4. What is fact of 4? Fact of 4, I am calling the function from the main program, right? So the fact of 4 is going to be step 0, right? It executes fact of 4. So what is the condition here? Factorial of number is equal to return n into fact of n minus 1, right? So return n into, what is n minus 1? 4 minus 1 is going to be 3, right? So again this function calls this, right? So again this will be the input. So when you see here, if I give 4 here, right, 4, so it will come here. It is equal to 0? No. So it will come here. What is my n? 4 into, again I am calling the function fact of 4 minus 1. So again it will go here. Now it is going to take it as 3, right? So that is what being represented here, right? So fact of 3. Fact of 3, again this will be executed. So when it executes, again I will have what? Return 3 into fact of 2. So again fact of 2 will be moved. So that is nothing but return 2 star fact 1. So again it executes fact 1. So it is nothing but return 1 star fact 0. Now fact 0, we have a return statement return 1. Already I told you, whenever you have a return statement, it will be removed from the stack and it will move to the caller. So for this, which is the caller? This step is going to be the caller, right? So return will move here, right? And what value it is going to return? It is going to return 1. So 1 into 1 is going to be what? 1. Again I have a return. So this return will go to the caller. For this function, this is going to be the caller, right? So 2 into 1. 2 into 1 is going to be what? 2. And that is going to be returned again to the caller. For this is going to be the caller. So I will return here, right? So 3 into 2. So 6 will be returned here. And 4 into 6 is going to be 24. Is that clear? So the same thing only is being represented like this here. What is the space occupied here? So all the record details will be stored in a memory, or you will call it to be an activation frame. Right? Right? Right. Now if you want, you can see here. Right. Understood, ma? I'll repeat it once again. So first time from the main program, I am going to call the factorial function. Here the number for which I want to find the factorial is 4. Right? So n is not equal to 0. So I'll move on to the else part. In the else part, you have return n into fact of n minus 1. So I have return 4 into fact of n minus 1. You have 3. So 3 again is going to call by passing the num value to be 3. So again you have a return 3 star fact of n minus 1. So 3 minus 1 is going to be 2. So in the same way you have, right? Once you have the return for fact of 0, the return value is going to be 1. Whenever you have a return, it is going to move on to the caller, right? So here this is going to return to the caller fact of 0. So return value is going to be 1. When I have the value 1, 1 into 1 is going to be 1, and that is going to return to the caller. For me, the caller is fact 1. Similarly, it will be keep on going till I reach the value. Whenever I receive the value, this 24 will be passed on to the main program, because main is the caller for fact 4. Clear? Right. Now, write a program to print a Fibonacci sequence using recursion. So, what is a Fibonacci sequence? What is a Fibonacci sequence, ma? So, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3. So here I will add these two terms to get my this term. I will add these two terms to get my next term. I will add these two terms to get my next term. So 2 plus 3, I am going to have it as 8. Is that clear? So this we are going to call it as a Fibonacci sequence. Already you have done this using for loop or while loop, etc. Now we'll see how to convert this into a recursion, right? So the concept is going to be same, right? So if you want to find the third value, you need to add your n minus 1 and n minus 2 term to get your nth term, right? So this is going to be the same for n number of terms in a Fibonacci. So I can reduce my problem and then I can try to get the Fibonacci terms, right? We'll move on to the program and then we'll see how this works, right? Now, hash include stdio.h, int fib int, it is going to take integer value, it is going to return an integer value. Fib is nothing but the name of the function, and this is a declaration, and this tells you the compiler how to invoke the particular function, right? Now int main, here I am going to have two variables, the terms, how many terms I want to print in a Fibonacci. For example, 0, 1, 1, 2 means I am going to print 4 terms. For example, till 8 means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need to print 7 terms. So number of numbers I am printing in a Fibonacci, are going to call it as a terms, right? And I for a loop variable, right? So printf, program name I am going to print it as Fibonacci sequence, and printf enter the number of terms, right? And then read the number of terms here, right? Then printf the Fibonacci series R. So I am going to print the Fibonacci series. Now here you call the Fibonacci function. Since I want to print the number of terms, it is not only the single number, right? I need to print the number. So from this number to this term, okay, this number I need to print all the Fibonacci values. So for that only we have got a for loop here, right? Now we'll move on to this function. Int fib, it is going to accept the value. If n is equal to 0 or n equal to 1, return n. This is going to be the base condition. So right here, this is a base condition here. And this is going to be my actual recursion method, right? So now here we already know if you want to find the nth term, what you have to do, you have to add your n minus 1 and n minus 2 terms, right, to get your nth term, right? So that is what we have done here. Now let us take an example and we'll see how this works, right? Now when I is equal to 0, so for the first I equal to 0, I am calling the function fib of I, right? So my n is equal to 0 here. When n is equal to 0, what happens? I should return n. What is my n? N is 0, so I will return 0. So in printf state, from here only I am calling the function, so the control will be returned here. So the 0 will be printed here, right? Now first term I have got, right? Now next I is equal to 1. If I have I is equal to 1, so again my n value is going to be 1. If I is equal to n is equal to 1 also, I should print return n. My n here is going to be 1. So this is only calling the function. Return means it return backs to the caller. So it goes there. Again it prints 1. So I have got my second term 1, right? Now when I is equal to 2. When I is equal to 2, here I will be 2, so here n will be 2. So here n is equal to 2. It is not equal to 0, not equal to 1. So I'll come here, return fib of n minus 1. So what is n minus 1? That is going to be 2 minus 1 plus fib of 2 minus 2, right? So again this will call the function. Right, so this will call the function. So where I will go again, I will go feb of 1. 1 means what I have to do? I have to return n. Now I will not return to the main program. Where I have to return? I have to return to the caller. Is that clear? Is that clear? I have to return to the caller. Right? So here 2 minus 2, again it is going to be 0. So I will return 0. Now here again the return will return to the caller. Here this return will not return to the main program. Instead of that it has to go to where? This is the caller. So I will go here. So 1 plus 0 is equal to what? 1. So 1 plus 0, 1 will be returned to the main program. Is that clear? It will be printed in the main. Right? Now again I have what? My I. So 3 is less than 4. So condition is true. So again I will call feb of 3. 3 means again my n value is 3 here. So I will come here. N is equal to 0. N equal to 1. No. So I will come here, return 3 minus 1 plus 3 minus 2. So I will come to this part. So feb of 3 I am calling. So feb of 3 minus 1, feb of 3 minus 2. 3 minus 1 is going to be 2. So the 2 will be passed on to this function. Right? So again I will repeat the same procedure. 2 means again I have to write what? N minus 1 and n minus 2. N minus 1 is nothing but feb of 1, feb of 0. This will return 1. This also returns you 0. So again I will move on to this is the function that is calling. Right? So again I will return. So this return will go here. I will add these two values and this value will again go to my caller. Here the caller is nothing but feb of 3. Right? So what is the value I will have? 1 plus 0, 1. So here I will have 1. 1 plus 1 here is going to be what? 1 plus 1 here is going to be 2. So the 2 will be returned to your main program. Is that clear? So whenever I have a return, it will go to the caller. So which is calling that particular function. Right? Suppose if here return means here which is called this particular function, this only called this particular one. So return will move here. So the value will be returned here. Similarly here this only called me. So the value will be returned here. These two values will be added and this will be returned to the caller. So caller here is going to be your main program. Right? Now, so till now we have seen how to calculate the factorial of a given number and we have seen how to calculate the Fibonacci sequence. Right? Hope you have understood. If you have any doubt, you please call me or you please message me so that I can repeat it once again in the next videos. Now we'll move on to the binary search because all these programs, these 3 programs are very important under your recursion. Right? See, all these diagrams what I have drawn is only for your understanding. In the exam you need not draw all these things to explain. Just you can write the program alone. Suppose if they ask you to write about recursion for 16 mark, then you can use this diagram and you can explain. Right? Now we'll move on to binary search. Right? So this is nothing but searching an element in the given array. Right? Already we have seen a search. Right? That will search an element by element. If it matches, then it will return that element found. Now here that you will call it to be a linear search. Linear search means element by element I have to check. Right? That is time consuming. So what we are going to do is we are going to use a binary search. A binary means by means I am going to divide the array into 2 halves and depending upon my element I will take the middle element. If my element is less than middle element, then it is present in the lower part of the array. If my element is going to be greater than my middle element, then it is going to be present in the upper part of the array. right? So that is the main concept of this algorithm. And this is the fast search algorithm, right? And it uses the divide and conquer. That divide and conquer is nothing but I am able to divide my problem into sub-problems, right? Now, if you want to work this, if you want to make this algorithm to work, then the elements should be in a sorted order, right? Then only I can use this algorithm, right? Binary search looks for a particular item by comparing the middle item. Whatever I've said, that is what been written here. If the match occurs, it will return the index of the middle element. Suppose if the middle item is greater than the element or item what you are going to do, then the item is searched in the subarray to the left of the middle term. That means in the upper part. So the array starts from here 0, 1, 2, 3. So upper part means this is going to be the upper part, right? Sorry. If the middle item is greater than the item, then the item is searched in the subarray to the left of the middle term. So this, not this, right? So otherwise the item is searched in the subarray to the right of the middle term. And don't worry about this. We'll take one example and we'll see, right? So middle term over there, if the element is greater than middle term, right? Then I will move on to this part. If the element is lesser than middle term, I will move on to the right part. Is that clear? Right. So take this example, right? So I will continue this till my array sizes reaches to 0, right? So now you take an example here. I have got an 10 elements array, right? Now I need to find the element 31. So this is the element I have. I need to find 31, right? So now I am going to take my middle value to be right. Now I need to calculate my middle value. So my middle means only if I know the middle element I can proceed with the array, right? So how to calculate the mid value is low plus high minus low. So what is my low index? Low index is nothing but 0 because array starts from the location 0, plus what is my high index value? I have got 9. 9 minus 0 divided by 2. So 9 by 2 is nothing but 4.5. So I am taking it as 4, right? So 4 is the mid of the array. So now move on to this. So what is the value I have got in the mid of the array? 27. Suppose if I want to find out the element 31, right? So now you compare 31 with 27. Which is greater? The element what I want to search is greater than my middle element. If my element is greater than middle element, what does it mean? I should move to the upper part of the array, upper portion of the array. So upper portion means what? This is my middle. So I should continue searching from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can omit my 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 because we know the elements are in the sorted order. So after 27 only I am going to have my 31. Right? So I need not go in this part. I can proceed with the upper part of the array. So in that case again I am going to modify my middle value and my low value because my low is no longer 0. I don't want 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can start from my 5. So what is my low? Low has been changed to mid plus 1. I don't want mid element also because already we have checked 31 with 27, right? So I am going to change my value, low value to mid plus 1. So that is going to my low is going to be 5, right? So now I need to calculate my new mid. So low is equal to 5 plus my high is going to be the same, 9 minus 5 divided by 2. What is 9 minus 5? 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 5 plus 2 is going to be 7. So 7 is now going to be my middle element. Right? Right. So now what I have got in 7? 35. Now you check, my element is going to be 31. So I will check my element. My element is less than 35. So in that case, what does it mean? My element is going to be in the lower part of my middle. So this is a middle, this is a lower part, and this is going to be an upper part. So it is going to be in the lower part because 31 is less than your 35, right? So here I need to change what? I should not change my low value. Instead of that, I should change my high value. So what is my high value? My high value is nothing but min minus 1 because I am going to come backwards, right? So here it is not mid plus 1, it is mid minus 1. So my middle is high is going to be 6. So 5 plus 6 minus 5, that is going to be 1. 1 divided by 2 is equal to 0.5. So omit this, so it is going to be 5. So my middle element is going to be 5 now. Now check with the middle element. Now my element is also 31. My middle element is also going to be 31. If both the things are equal, then return your index as 5. So it is being at the location 5. Is that clear? Right. So here what is the thing you should know? What is the thing you should know is find out the middle element. If whatever the element I have, if my element is less than middle, then I should go to the lower part of the array. If my element is greater than middle, then I should move on to my upper part. Is that clear? So till my array size becomes 0. So here I have only 2 elements. My middle is 31 and this. So here it is going to be end of the search. Right? Right. Now we'll see the program. Write a program to implement binary search using recursion. Now till now we have seen only the example. Now we'll move on to the algorithm. Here in the algorithm we are going to, program, here we are going to use the same thing what we have studied, right? So no need to worry about that. Right. First we'll move on to the main program and then we'll come on to the function, right? So int main, here I have an array of 30 elements, right? And then I have a variable n, element I, index, right? So here this element means what element I need to search. N is nothing but how many elements I want to store it in an array. And this is for to use in a for loop. And here the index, I'll tell you what for we are using this index, right? So to get the result where the element is being stored. Now in the program we'll see what is the purpose of index. Now printf, the program is going to be the binary search program using recursion. And printf, enter the number of elements in an array, right? So using the scanf, read the number of elements you want to enter. And then printf, enter the elements in sorted form. So when you are giving the input to the array, it should be in the sorted format. Otherwise this algorithm will not work properly because based on the middle element only you are going and checking the elements, right? So now using the for loop, you read all the elements one by one into an array. After reading all the elements into an array, use the printf statement. Printf, enter the element to be searched, right? And then read the element using your scanf. So scanf %d ampersand element. Whatever the element I want to search, that I am going to store it in element. Now index means whatever the result I have got it from binary search, that I am going to store it in index, right? So I am calling the function bin search. Here I am passing the entire array. Till now we have not seen, we have seen only how to pass an integer variable, right? Now here we are passing the entire array. The array is going to be of type what? Integer. Here the name, if you specify, the entire array will be passed. The array will be passed as a address. Is that clear? So whatever the changes you make in the array, that will be effected in your main program, right? So here the name of the array can be passed along with the beginning of the array, the end of the array, and what element I want to search. So here I am passing the entire array to a function. Whenever you are passing the array to a function, you need to specify the name of the array, the starting value, the end index, and then the element. So what are all the what element you need to search it, right? Generally you will pass array and the size, but in this program I need to pass all these parameters. Now if index is equal to -1, then you will say element not found. Else what you will do, you will print the location where that particular value is present, right? Now we'll move on to the program, right? So in this program, don't get confused after seeing all these things, right? So it is going to return an integer, name of the function, and here I am going to accept my first argument to be an array. So since it is an array, I should have what? Int array square brackets. Why I need a square bracket? To indicate that whatever the parameter I passed is going to be of array type. And then here I have a beginning of the array, end of the array, and then the element that is to be searched, right? Now here I am declaring one more local variable, int middle, right? Because I need to calculate middle, then only I can proceed, right? So now if end is greater than or equal to start, end is greater than or equal to start. What is my end? First time it is going to be 9. First time the start is going to be 0. So 9 is greater than or equal to 0, condition true. So I will come here. What is here? Middle is equal to start plus end minus start divided by 2. This is nothing but what we have seen, low plus high minus low by 2. We have seen, right? So what is my start? 0 plus what is my end? 9. 9 minus 0 by 2, right? So that will be stored in the middle element. Now I am checking if array of middle equal to element, right? If it is the case, then I should return my index where the element is being stored, return middle. Else I am going to check if array of middle is greater than element. So my element is less, my middle is greater. When element is less, what I have to do? I have to move to the lower part of the array. So lower part of the array means I should change what? I should change what? The start will remain as it is, and I should change my end, right? So my end will be middle minus 1, that is high. Is that clear? Is that clear? So again this will be called. So here what is my new value? This will be 0, and this will be what? My middle element is going to be 4, right? So 4 minus 1 is going to be what? 3, right? 3 will be passed here. So I will check with 0 to 3 values.